looked like a cross between a man and an alien with wings and red eyes. It scared me more than anything that I have ever seen in my life.
It was big, too big to be a person. It stood at least 9 foot tall. I mean, it was massive.
You know, if you see something floating atop the ground, wouldn't you, like, run for your life?
You gotta get the gun.
I know there's something out there. I know it's a beast.
Neither one of us were sure if we were gonna make it out alive.
The Appalachians, some of the oldest mountains on Earth. Within these dark hollows and dense forests, an ancient spirit prevails.
Even since the settlers came here, there has always been strange occurrences.
Being out here in the country around all the woods, it's just something about it. It's the surprise around a tree. Other forms of life that we maybe don't see.
You know, growing up, people kind of have a natural fear of the woods, of not knowing what's in the woods.
Along much of the eastern U.S. are the dark inland forests of Appalachia. On its western edge within Breckinridge County, Kentucky, the hills are thick with rumors about a bizarre mutant beast, a crossover between mutton and man, a giant sheep that's gone savage.
Yes, this Appalachian part of the country has been seen a lot. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it. It was huge. It was huge.
They've got woolly hair. It's usually white or dirty white, huge jaws and fangs, and a tail that usually has no fur on it.
We had to go down to the pump house by the river. And we'd find dead dogs, wolves, all kinds of fish that had been ate on and the bones left.
We had always heard noises that we just could never explain, like a growl almost, but you could hear them for long distances.
The woods are mysterious. People still won't go out really at night into the woods. It's one of the few things that people around here won't really talk about, but there's definitely something out there that keeps them all inside.
That something is a creature that's known to locals as Sheep Squatch. The legend may have started long ago. Sheep herders immigrating to Appalachia from Britain, bringing stories of demons wearing sheep hides and horns. But to this very day, the belief remains in force.
Sheep Squatch is predominantly in the woods. I feel like that it has been very good at eluding. It's had to be. It does know that we're looking. And I think it just wants to be left alone.
Some claim to have caught a glimpse. And recently, two adventurous Breckinridge boys, Ricky Joyce and Dakota Cheeks, had a showdown with a Sheep Squatch. They'll never forget it.
Well, when I tell most people I've seen it, they just tell me I'm crazy, I'm a crackpot. But there are a few people that believe in it. Mainly the people that live around here are the ones that don't call me crazy.
It didn't matter what anybody thought about us. You know, we knew without a shadow of a doubt what we saw.
At 13, Dakota met Ricky Joyce in school. The pair have been close ever since.
There's always been a form of trust between me and Ricky, especially the older we get. You know, he's right there with you to the very end.
We're more brothers than we are friends. He's trustworthy, he's loyal. I've never had a friend that had my back like him.
That bond would be tested on a warm summer weekend in July of 2004. On a hunting trip, Dakota and Ricky ventured into some of Kentucky's more remote tracts of wilderness.
All I really need is this.
We go hunting a lot, but this time it was a lot different.
Come on, Lily.
This was a night that would change our lives forever.
Base camp for the deer hunt. Ricky's grandparents' cabin at the foot of 100 acres of dense timber. But the first morning, something's wrong with one of Ricky's dogs.
And we called for her and she just didn't come. Well, we noticed that the dog was laying in the ditch. And we walked over and that's when we found her.
It appeared that something had twisted its head almost completely around. It was quite a sight. It just seemed kind of strange, though, that something just handled it like it did.
There's no animal up here that can grab an animal by its chin and the back of its head and twist it. You know, no coyote can do it. There's no bear, as far as I know, up here. It became very apparent that we had to find out, you know, what happened, what got her, and why.
Are there creatures capable of such violence roaming the backwoods of Appalachia?
White things.
I heard it was half man and half sheep.
If you just look at the fact that it has claws, it has horns. Look at the sheer size. You know, it could potentially really be a very dangerous thing.
Before the dog incident, for months we'd been hearing noises coming from the top of the hill. There were growls and screams, things that we just didn't know anything about. We went looking to see if we could figure out what had happened, see if we could find tracks of anything big, anything that could have killed a 150-pound dog like it did.
We decided we were gonna hop on the four-wheelers and stake out the hilltop.
We ended up going the far side of the property.
Dude, I'm telling you, it came from right over here.
Where nobody really goes, there's no trails.
We make a couple laps around the field, that way we can both easily see where the four-wheeler has been, so we know where to look.
I was concerned because I didn't know what they were dealing with, if there was potentially harm for them out there.
They searched the area for hours, but no clues turned up. Exhausted, they retreated to the family's hunting camper set within the hillside.
We ended up staying in the camper, and we started hearing all sorts of weird noises, things walking around.
We knew a creature was close. About 5 a.m. in the morning, the dogs start barking and they take off running down the hill. Well, me and Ricky sit there and a little hesitant to go outside because, you know, the other dogs are now gone.
The camper that seemed a safe haven was suddenly under attack.
Something actually ran into the trailer. Kind of scared the crap out of me.
It literally sounded like all hell was breaking loose. It's almost like you can hear something pressing up against the side, and you can kind of hear the tin start to bend. It's just that weird, eerie metal sound. And then it was just free fall. It was like it let go, and then we hit. I was terrified. I mean, there shouldn't be anything out here strong enough to push a camper like that.
What the hell's going on?
When it actually moved and tipped, I wasn't sure what it was.
But we knew without a shadow of a doubt that there was something there.
They had started the day as hunters. Now Dakota and Ricky were feeling they were the ones being tracked.
Neither one of us were sure if we were going to make it out alive.
In July of 2004, Dakota Cheeks and Ricky Joyce were on a hunting trip in the woods of Kentucky. But it took a horrible turn. One of Ricky's dogs was mysteriously mangled. Then, their camper came under attack. Everything pointed to Appalachia's bizarre hybrid beast, Sheep Squatch.
Anything that aggressive doesn't deserve to be here. If it can't coexist, it needs to go.
At Ricky's grandparents' cabin, they gather more ammunition.
I know there's something out there.
This thing killed my dog, man.
I know it's a beast.
Whatever it was, it had to be huge.
We were determined to find something having that much strength. It made me want to find it more, but I knew that, we couldn't just go up there in a four-wheeler and expect everything to be okay.
I had some beast that lived on my property that killed my dog already. I didn't know what to do about it. I was scared that it was going to come to my house.
With guns loaded, Ricky and Dakota head back into the woods. They crossed through a cemetery and entered an open field.
Your mind is telling you, 1,000 times, don't let him go. But ultimately, you begin to share his passion of, get it. Just be really careful, but get it.
I seen something standing in the field, and at first I thought it was a tree. It was tall, but it was also kind of hunched over a little bit. It was big, it was white.
And its arms were long, but they were kind of out like this, and it had these long talons. It was too big to be a person. When it was on two legs, it stood at least 9 foot tall. I mean, it was massive. When it noticed us, it let out this just ungodly, gut-curling growl. It came straight at us.
And we were shooting. I don't know that we hit anything, but I remember coming back to the house as fast as we could.
We saw Sheep Squatch. That's what we saw.
And this wasn't the first Sheep Squatch encounter.
Anybody in the Appalachia region could experience these type things. They may be out hunting deer or something of that nature and stumble upon a creature that they never suspected.
I was on my way home, coming down Ashby Lane, and there was this big hairy thing standing on the road. And as I got closer, I could see an eye. I thought it was a deer, but it was too big. Some kind of sheep thing with horns.
Ever since I was a little girl, I've always heard stories of the creepy things in the woods. I've always heard of Bigfoot, always heard of Sheep Squatch.
Even when Daniel Boone was around, they talked about this area being very mysterious. They would not hardly venture there due to certain things, I guess they called it a mysterious ground or something of that nature. So it's got a history that dates back all the way to Native American times.
From their description, it's clear Dakota and Ricky had stumbled into monster country.
I've been in some pretty scary situations, but most situations you know what you're dealing with, and that one I didn't. So I didn't know how to react. That's quite possibly the scariest moment of my life.
Yeah, man, let's get this stuff packed. It's like it's about 2 hours to get there.
Yeah.
As a kid, you're not really sure what's in the dark. Once you see what's just beyond the light is when you realize that all your innocence is gone.
It made me believe in the unbelievable. I didn't believe in myths. I didn't believe in wise tales, none of that, until I seen that. And after that, changed my life forever. I mean, there's things out there and we don't know what they are.
I wish we could have found its body that night. Before our time is up, it's done. If we have it our way, we're actually going to drag Sheep Squatch out of these woods.
While folks in Breckenridge County are fearing what's in the woods, in another pocket of Appalachia, the fear is focused on what might arrive from space. Deep in the heart of Christian County, Kentucky, lies the rural hamlet of Kelly.
Kelly is a quiet little community. Not very many people live there, probably about maybe 3 or 4 churches at the most, and just regular common country folk, like me.
No theater, nothing. There's not even a gas station there.
In the middle of this tiny speck of Appalachia lives native Geraldine Sutton Stith. Geraldine was 8 years old when she first learned about a family secret. A terrifying alien encounter at their farmhouse more than 5 decades ago.
You talk about one little kid being scared to death. I was petrified. I would go around at night, closing the doors and windows, the shades, the curtains, everything, as soon as that darkness started falling. This is the great American horror story.
Guys, get the gun.
In 1955, one of the most famous UFO incidents allegedly took place at the Sutton family farmhouse in Kelly, Kentucky.
This is where it happened. This is the actual property, the actual spot, you know, everything. And so it's kind of like, wow. I'll never forget the day that I learned my father's deep, dark secret. It'll be with me forever.
Late in the afternoon, at Glennie Sutton's farmhouse, the family was settling in. They assumed the day was coming to an end. It was just beginning.
That was Mama, Daddy, Uncle Amber, Aunt Vera, Billy Ray Taylor, and I think his wife was there. And it was me, Johnny, and Kathy, Grandma, Charles, Lonnie, and Mary. And that's, you know, that's it.
It was a house full that weekend. 14 people in that little bitty house. The only communication with the outside world they had was a radio. They were all in the house playing cards or doing something like that. And the old hound dog came running across in front of them, tail tucked, ears down, went straight under the porch. It was kind of eerie. You know, my dad's like, okay, maybe he just got into something beehive, you know, whatever. Didn't know what it was. But oh my goodness. August the 21st, 1955 was a life changer for the Sutton Langford family.
It all began later that night.
Now, they didn't have air conditioning. They didn't have running water. So anyway, Billy Ray went out to the well to get some cold water. Well, he heard something, looked up, and he's seen this oval silver object going across the sky. Colors following behind it. Didn't know what it was, had no clue. Ran into the house, told everybody.
They thought he was pulling a joke, you know. But later on, they found he wasn't joking. Something was out there.
When Billy Ray and Lucky went outside to investigate, the lights in the sky were gone, but they weren't alone.
They noticed there was something coming out of the woods in the back. 3.5 foot tall. Big ears, big eyes, arms down to the ground, and it was floating atop the ground, legs not moving.
They had pointed ears, claw-like hands, beady looking, you know, and had a slit for a mouth. They said they were silver looking, green looking, silver plated, nickel plated is what they called them.
It was an eerie thing, you know, if you see something floating atop the ground, wouldn't you like, yeah, you know, run for your life?
Guys, get the guns.
To run into the house. And my grandmother's like, what if y'all went out there to cook up? And he's like, Mom, there is something out here, I'm not lying.
Mama, I'm not lying, there's something out
She knew it was really getting serious when one got a shotgun, one got a rifle.
Come on, guys, come on. It was Lonnie, me, my sister, and I think my brother were all hiding up under the bed at this time because we were all scared. We didn't know what was going to happen. Didn't know what was going to take place. There was fear. There was fear enough that I think we was all crying. All of us kids were crying.
All of a sudden, there comes one as big as you can be. Billy Ray fires at it. JC shoots off around to the front of the house because one of them's peeking in the window and they're just having a battle. The darn little things get shot, they drop, roll away, and then they come back.
Yeah, come on, JC, come on, boy.
They were coming at the doors and windows looking in, like they were wanting to come in. You've got children there, you're gonna protect them. And that's what those country boys did.
For the Suttons, making nice with E.T. wasn't an option. They felt under attack.
Shoot first, ask questions later.
It was just scary. They were scared, the kids were crying, everybody was hysterical.
Eventually, the shooting stopped. The little green men had come and gone.
Finally, it got quiet. My dad said, hit the trucks. So they took out, jumped in the trucks, headed to Hopkinsville. There was police officers there.
In the dark of night, police officers head to the farmhouse to check out this Sutton's fantastic story.
My family had a nice, quiet life. They loved the farm, they loved it out in the country, but that night changed everything for them. It was never going to be the same again.
In the fall of 1955, in the hills of Appalachia, the Sutton family maintains that aliens from space descended on their farm. They came under attack by little green men. Local police were called in, but by that time, hardly a trace of the extraterrestrials remained.
A couple of police officers noticed that in the back, where they had shot one off the fence, there was like a glowing substance on the ground. But they couldn't find any bodies. No hair, no skin, no blood, nothing to show that anything was actually hurt or killed except that there was evidence of gunfire.
There's bullet holes, there's shells casing all over the place.
By morning, word of aliens landing at the Sutton farmhouse traveled quickly throughout Appalachia.
I was going into the 8th grade, and it was just the biggest thing that ever hit this area. Kelly had little green men running around down there, flying saucers. That was something out of Buck Rogers or Flash Gordon or Superman, which was a big thing with all of us kids.
The Suttons were one of the first reported close encounters. They wouldn't be the last.
The Appalachia area has had several famous sightings. You get into Kentucky, you get into the Kelly Little Green Men sightings, you get UFO sightings, abductions there.
Reports of flying saucers quickly became an Appalachian phenomenon.
Oh, we were coming up the road here, and we looked around the curve there, and we thought it was a car light. When we got around it, it was this big orange glowing light.
Well, I first thought it was an airplane, a jet.
When I saw it, was 6 feet in diameter.
And it was a circle.
Reddish orange tint to it. Where did it go?
It went right in the treetop. It was huge.
We got all kinds of static on the radio, and the car quit. And it just sailed away.
Adding to the area's excitement and fear about UFOs, classified military activities at nearby Fort Campbell, Kentucky, home of the 101st Airborne Division, and a secret nuclear arsenal.
Fort Campbell wasn't very far away. And you could actually see they would do their night maneuvers, and the big flares would go up in the air at night. And so every night when they would do the maneuvers, it was like, oh my gosh, is it Fort Campbell or is it something else?
From that fateful night forward, the Sutton family believed in aliens from outer space. Throughout Appalachia, UFO sightings have continued. But to this very day, Geraldine remains wary of their return.
Yes, it does put a fear in you. Big time. Even now, if I'm out at night, I'll watch the sky. It's just a matter of time. You know, they're here. They're here.
Some 400 miles across Appalachia sits Point Pleasant, West Virginia. A small town wedged into a spit of land where the Ohio and Kanawha rivers cross. On any given day, Main Street bears little evidence of Point Pleasant's dark secret. A town famous for its flying monster.
There were kids in cars with their parents who saw it. There were teenagers at a bonfire who saw it. There were hundreds of sightings.
We were just out playing in the woods at night, and it looked like a cross between a man and an alien with wings and red eyes. It scared me more than anything that I have ever seen in my life.
Growing up here in Point Pleasant, I've always heard about the Mothman. As you're growing up and people tell you stuff, you know, you start to believe it, but you've always got that doubt in your mind until you go and experience it yourself.
It all began in the late 1960s with sightings of a Mothman monster. First, the location of the sightings. The TNT bunkers, a former bomb-making plant built during World War II.
Well, the TNT area was an entire community, a town within itself. You can still see maps of it and see how it was a top secret facility for making explosives. But then they let it become overgrown, and the buildings were abandoned and the igloos were abandoned.
After the war, the government no longer needed the bunkers. They were deserted, except for occasional visits by Point Pleasant teenagers, bored and looking for fun.
We used to hang out and play at the TNT bunkers. That was the only thing to do around here, especially during the summer.
In the fall of 1967, high school kids sneaked off to the TNT bunkers for a good time. They encountered something else. Rumors about a Mothman spread quickly through the town.
They were really serious about it and really scared. You know, they had to see something. They were too scared and too emotional not to have seen something. And then, of course, that was the talk of everywhere you went.
While the town was trading stories, one Point Pleasant girl came face to face with something she'll never forget.
I was an innocent teenager till I saw those red eyes. I've just never been the same since then.
Point Pleasant, West Virginia. This small town of some 4,000 souls would be as ordinary as any Appalachian town, except for its monster. The legend began in the 1960s. The town was rife with rumors about a flying creature with glowing red eyes.
I was about 13 or 14. We didn't hear anything about this so-called Mothman till the very day that the first eyewitness at school started telling it.
Faye Laporte grew up in Point Pleasant, dirt poor and one of 14 kids. A family outing to check out the rumors at the TNT bunkers bonded them in a way they never expected.
My brother took us to a movie, and after the movie, we went directly up there because he was going to go find it. He was going to go up there and catch that thing and prove that it was some guys in a costume. Myself, I wasn't worried about really seeing anything because I really didn't believe in it either.
As they drove, the weather turned chilly. The sky dark, with only the moon to guide their way.
We were driving down the drag strip to the TNT bunkers, and my brother kept looking over towards me. And then he turned back, and then he'd look over at me again. I said, well, what are you looking at? He said, well, don't look, but there's something there beside the car.
Don't look.
So I turned and looked. He told me not to.
Don't look.
And there it was, right beside the window, flying right beside the car.
What is that? Get out of here! Go!
Everything was just haywire. We were scared.
Then the car came to a screeching halt. That's when they met Mothman.
And that thing jumped on the hood of the car and was just looking at me. We were just more or less immobilized. And the whole time, all you could focus on was its eyes, and they were just so red. It was just beyond any red you could ever find. But when it jumped up, that's when I saw it open up its wings just like an angel. They were that big. They looked like a bird's wings, and they just unfolded, and it just went over them bushes and into the night and was gone.
Encountering the dark winged creature known as Mothman had made believers out of the Laporte family. Yet exactly what they'd seen could not be resolved.
We went back the next day because my brother wanted to go and find this thing, this creature, and it was blocked off by the military, and they wouldn't allow us in. He tried to go in, they wouldn't let him, and they got very strict and forceful. We don't need your help, we appreciate it. He said, but just turn around and go and leave, and we'll take care of it.
Well, I know I can't.
And my brother just kept on. He said, well, I don't see why I can't go in there and help y'all find this, because I want to find it myself. You told to leave now, leave. Right smartly. And I told my brother, I said, come on, Daddy kills, find out we're back up here.
Back the vehicle up, let's go. Turn it around, let's go.
Yes, there's something else out there. And I thoroughly believe that the government covered it up. And within 2 weeks, they left and said they had it and they took care of it, and nobody needed to worry anymore. When we experienced all this, to me, it was just another thing I chalked up as an unexplainable experience in my lifetime. But I know what I've seen is enough that it gives me the idea that we're not the only ones that's in this world. To this day, I believe that.
While the sightings of the Mothman started at the TNT bunkers, a few months later, he was seen on the Silver Bridge, a suspension trestle that links Point Pleasant to Ohio.
There was a stoplight right at the foot of the bridge. It was malfunctioned, and all of these cars piled up on the bridge, and one side of the bridge collapsed, and it dumped one half of the cars into the river, and then the bridge swung back and the other side collapsed. When the cars were floating in the river, the bridge fell on top of it and crushed them all. It was over in minutes.
It began with a hairline crack in a single eye bar. In the end, 46 people lost their lives. The worst bridge collapse in U.S. history.
Friends and neighbors went down on that bridge. My little girl in my class, third grade class, went down on the bridge with her mother.
I don't really discuss the Silver Bridge. My family was on there. Devastated, completely changed me. After the bridge fell, everything was gloom, you know, and everybody here had somebody there on the bridge.
A lot of people say the Mothman was here to warn us about the bridge.
He was seen on the bridge a few days before it fell, but like a good omen. So he was big and ugly, people wouldn't cross it.
After the bridge collapsed, few wanted to talk about the Mothman. The subject disappeared, replaced with suspicions the town was cursed.
I don't really know why everything is attracted to Point Pleasant, but Point Pleasant has had its share at times of a lot of bad things happening.
I believe that there is something very odd about this area, about this place. I also believe that a lot of the people that come from here, there is a dark cloud over them, no matter where they go.
I don't know about anywhere else, but I do know that the paranormal people love to come here. They never leave disappointed.
Brett Kirby is one of those people. In the summer of 2009, he arrived to Point Pleasant for a visit, skeptical about the legends of the Mothman. When he left, he was a believer.
I can't explain what happened to me out there. It changed my life.
Point Pleasant, West Virginia, was the setting of a daytime date for Brett Kirby and Jennifer Jeffers. But just when they thought it was going to offer romance, they stumbled upon the Mothman.
He had never been to Point Pleasant, and so he came up here one day and I took him a tour. It was really exciting, you know, that he came to see me. We went to a few different places around Point Pleasant, and then I told him, I was like, the TNT bunkers, I said, you know, they're out there, you know, and he said, well, what is it? And I was like, well, they're old military bunkers that they used to use, and, you know, they were built on the Indian burial ground.
She just told me that it's haunted and stuff like that. I thought, you know, it'd probably be kind of romantic and stuff.
As Brett and Jennifer's date started to heat up, they decided to check out the TNT bunkers, the site of the original Mothman encounters.
The TNT bunkers were where people used to go party when we were younger and in school. Everybody always went out there and you always heard the stories and stuff, and they always, you know, come back with, you know, we heard this or we heard that. But I thought it was just because they were drunk. I never really believed it.
We arrived at the bunkers, it was probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock. The weather was probably about 75, 80 degrees outside. We went through 3 of them, and on our way back, we stopped back to the second one. When I went back into it and stuff, it felt like it was probably about 10 degrees cooler than what the rest of the bunkers felt like. I did have like a real eerie feeling and stuff, and it was just, I felt like unease for some reason. I couldn't figure it, I couldn't pinpoint why.
Wow, this place is pretty neat.
At that moment, there was no sound. The only sound was like him clicking the pictures. And then he had quit clicking the pictures, and we were standing there just listening.
Do you see anything? It's cold in here.
And all of a sudden, something like just like grabbed my leg real fast. You know, I can actually feel the fingers, and just something just clamp onto my back of my leg. Because when it grabbed me, I spun around and stuff and looked behind me as if it was an animal that was running around or something. It kind of creeped me out because I didn't know what was going on. And I told Jennifer, I go, something just grabbed my leg. And she goes, oh, no, it didn't. You're just trying to scare me and stuff. And I said, no, something grabbed my leg.
And I was like, oh my gosh, there's something here. I said, I'm out of here. I gotta go. I can't take this. I'm out of here. Because it scared me so bad.
After it happened, I flashed a couple quick pictures to see if there was anything in there with us, and stuff like a mouse or a squirrel or something, just to explain what happened.
We were totally freaked out. It was just something that I had never expected, to happen. We ran back to the car, and then we took off. We went back to his house, and we were looking at the pictures on the computer.
You caught my eye on one of them and stuff, and we went back to it. And the picture had to me, it looked like an apparition. It had like the torso and looked like an arm coming off of it.
My heart just dropped because I was like, oh my gosh, there was something there. There is something there.
First seen that picture, it blew my mind. I had actual evidence on my camera that there was something in that bunker besides me and Jennifer at that time. I mean, it blew me away.
It turned me into a believer because, I've always heard that there is demons that walk up on the earth, but I'd never, really experienced it in myself until that moment.
Some 40 years ago, a dark winged Mothman descended to Earth in Appalachia. Some were terrified. But in the wake of a horrific bridge collapse, the monster came to be seen as a messenger, a prophet to warn about imminent disaster. If a recent sighting is to be believed, the creature is still here.
It made us both believers of the spirits and what, can happen that we never believed would. Because that's something that, you'll never forget.